Hello everyone, Power Query again. However, in this video and also in the coming videos, I'm not going to show you how to solve a complicated problem with Power Query. Instead, I'm going to talk about the basic. In this video, I want to highlight the three major steps involved in the process when using Power Query, which is get the data, transform the data, and finally, load the data. In my experience, people is having difficulty in using Power Query because they are not well informed about these three steps. First, getting the data. With Power Query, we can actually get the data we need from multiple sources without even opening the files that contain the data. This is indeed a little bit out of the box, I would say, to most Excel users, because we all get used to work with the data sitting on an Excel worksheet. Second, transforming the data. People is not aware or is not familiarized with the user interface of the Power Query editor, where all the magic happens. So in this video, I'm going to give you an introduction of the Power Query editor. Finally, loading the cleaned, transformed, consolidate data into a table or to a connection. This is another new concept to many Excel users. We are all getting used to see the result instantly with formula, right? Why we have to load the data to a table or to a connection for further analysis with pivot table or in data model. And then we have to refresh the queries after new data comes in. Why? Why we have to do that, you may wonder. Because it is the best practice to work with data. Whenever possible, we should always set the different stages for data, analyzing, and output, which is perfectly in line with the process of using Power Query. Okay, enough talking. Let's see where do we start with Power Query in Excel. Okay, let's start with a typical scenario working with the data within Excel. So I open the Excel, go to the worksheet with the data I want to clean up, select the data that I want, and then go to the Data tab from within Sheet, or in previous versions, it is called from Table or Range. They are basically the same. Click on it, and then Excel will create an Excel table for us if the range of data is not a named range or is not an Excel table. So confirm the range of data and confirm whether the table has headers or not. You may wonder why I do not include all the data below. I will show you at the end of the video. From now on, just click OK. Then the data is being loaded into the Power Query editor. One point to highlight is that when the Power Query editor is opened, actually it is on top of the Excel worksheet. When it is opened, we cannot go back to the worksheet to do any kind of editing. We cannot even click into the worksheet. Okay? If you want to go back to the worksheet, you have to close and load the data to somewhere. Or you may simply close the Power Query editor and discard all the changes. But right now, I'm not going to close it. I'm going to cancel this operation. So let me walk you through the user interface of Power Query editor. On the left here is called the queries pane. It may be collapsed sometimes, but I will suggest we always expand it because this is the area we will see all the queries being loaded into the Power Query editor. In this example, we have loaded only one query here, so nothing more. But indeed, we can load multiple query here into the Power Query editor. As an example, I'm not going to load another table here, but just give you a sense of what it looks like. I can duplicate this query. So now I have two separate queries, even though they are coming from the same dataset. On the second query, I can filter to display only 3 records. But if I go back to my original query, I have a query with all the 9 records I can work on. Indeed, we can make totally different transformation steps to the two queries. We can right-click on the query. For example, here, the original query, table 4. I want to rename it to something meaningful to me. So, my data, for example. This is a very important reminder to all the users. When you try to load a query to Power Query Editor, make sure you will name all individual query to something meaningful to you. Think about the situation when you have multiple tables or queries. You don't want all the queries named table 1, table 2, table 3, and in baskets 2, something like that. You want a better management of your queries or better organization of your query. So please name your query one by one whenever you load it into your Power Query Editor. Okay, so this is where we can go to a query. If I do not want it, or I can just delete it. Delete. Okay, so let's focus on the single query. We have my data. In the middle here is the preview of the data. For your information, only 1000 rows of data will be loaded in this preview, and we are working actually on a sample set of the data to do all the transformation that we want. This is the area of ribbon, which is basically the same concept in the Excel interface. We have the ribbon. Within the ribbon, we have tab. This is the Home tab. This is the Transform tab. This is the Add Column tab. And within these 3 tabs, we have all the commonly used commands to do all the transformation, data cleansing. And we will have multiple videos to show you in the future. Now I would like you to go to the View tab. If you are new to Power Query, please make sure you have checked this box, the formula bar. If you do not check this box, you will not see the formula bar. As simple as that. So why we have to check the formula bar? Because it is very important to see the formula bar. At this stage, I do not expect you to understand the formula here. Indeed, all the formula here is automatically generated by Power Query. Each action will be converted into a line of code called M code. M stands for mashup, just for information. But it is super important for us to have the formula bar visible because in the future you will see we can do some minor change or modification on the formula bar easily to perform some magic. Okay, now going back to my preview of data. At this point, let's take a look at the right side, the query settings. This is the properties. This is the query name. We may rename the query here. When we are doing so, you will see that the name here on the queries pinned update automatically. But one more point here under the properties is when we click the all properties, we can document what the query is about. So I just input, okay, this is my first attempt. Whatever, just have something meaningful to you. Then when I click OK, and then now when I hover to my query on the query pin here, I see the description. This is kind of a documentation. And then here is very important. All the transformation steps we are going to do will be recorded automatically here. So now we have 2 steps. The first one is to get the data. we did it by ourselves. So the first step is getting the data of current workbook from a table called table 4. The second step is a change type steps, which is also automatically generated by Power Query. So it converts the data. So let me go back here. You will see that here the icon is ABC123. That means the column of data is any type, any kind. When the change type steps are applied, it converted to text. When you click on this little icon, you will see we can define the data type, like decimal number, currency, whole number, percentage, different date term, date, count, and so on and so forth. We can do all the transformation. In this example, we see that, okay, let me make it bigger. We see that our data is actually CSV data, common separated value. I want to split all the data by the delimiter, comma. So what I'm going to do is go to the Transform tab, split column by delimiter. Okay, the delimiter is comma. I want to split at each occurrence of the delimiter, and I'm going to click OK. Before I do so, I want you to pay attention to the apply steps here. Right now, we have only 2 steps. When I click OK here, I have 2 more steps here. This is the step I instruct Power Query to do. I instruct Power Query to separate the data by delimiters. Show that, oh, now we have 1, 2, 3, 4 columns separated. Perfect. The second step is the change type step. For each column being extracted from the data, Power Query will scan the data and decide the data type for you. So for the second column, it is a text. The third column, it is a decimal number. And also, for the final column, the column 4, Power Query defined it integer here. If you do not agree with the change types, you may simply remove these steps, or you can change it directly here. Say, for example, this is test, and then you can replace the current steps. And this column will be stored as a test instead of the decimal. But I don't want it. I want it to be decimal number, so I'm going to change it back to replace current steps. And now I have 1, 2, 3, 4 different columns, and I can rename the column by clicking into the headers. For this one, I want to rename it to email. Double click here, and this will be the department. We may do so by right-click on the headers of a column and then renamed. So this will be the year of service. And the final column will be the salary. Now I have all the transformation steps finished. So what I need to do is load this keyed data back to my worksheet. So I'm going to Home, close and load. I want to specify where to load the result. So I'm going to choose close and load to. I want to load it to a table. I want to load to an existing worksheet. I want to load to here, which is called data C1, and then OK. There we go. We have the data cleaned up, and we should be able to see the query here on my Excel workbook. This is the query connection. In case you do not see it, for example, now I'm going to close it. In case you do not see it, you want to get it back. Go to Data tab here, the queries and connection. Click on it, then it is going back. So when you click on it, the output table will be highlighted. So now I'm going to show you the magic of Power Query. All the transformation steps is being recorded. So when we have new data like this, I just put it to the table and then it will become part of the Excel table. What I need to do is right click on my output table and refresh. This is the magic of Power Query. You don't have to go through the entire process one by one every week or every month. You just do it once and have the query do everything for you. In case you want to edit your query, double click here. The Power Query editor will open. Go to the query that you want to edit and then say, for example, I want to focus on the people coming from HR. Then I go to the last step here. I appoint another step to filter the data to HR only. OK. And then close and load. You will see as simple as that. I can modify the query. Up to now, I hope you have a better understanding of Power Query. It's a process about getting the data, transform your data within the Power Query editor, and then load it either to a worksheet or to a connection to your data model for further analysis. And as you see, we may go back to the Power Query editor to go back to any query, go back to a particular steps, or we can add further steps in your query. All the changes will be applied to the output automatically, and you can reapply all the transformation steps when you revise your dataset or when new dataset come in. This is the true power of Power Query. In the coming videos, I will show you in multiple bite-sized videos the key transformation steps we can perform within Power Query. Stay tuned. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like it, please share, comment, and subscribe. Don't forget to ring the bell.